Of course, it connects just as I'm coughing. Good morning. I meant to hook up a microphone to ask you guys whether it gives better sound quality, but the darn thing's still in the box. Um, it's a cheap one, not professional by any means, but looks pretty cool. It has a screen to eliminate pops, USB condenser microphone. Well, maybe next week. Uh, whew. Last week, I couldn't find the book because I had set another book on top of it. And it didn't occur to me to scan to move the book that was on top of it. So I did record a short reading from it after I found it. I always cough in the spring and the fall. We have some nasty pollen up here, but I wouldn't leave the mountain for anything. Well, maybe another mountain. Maybe. In the fall, the cedar trees are dropping. In the spring, the weeds are growing. Radio Free UFO will show up one day. I just know it. Oh, you want the Dallas satellite beacon? Well, I'm using the mic that's built into the laptop. Back in the day, I had a desktop and a plug in headset. Well, I still have the headset, but apparently it isn't giving much quality in the way of sound. Things sound good on the headset, but that's a phenomenon that Philip K. Dick noticed um, when he had a stereo. Even the best speakers you could get didn't sound as good as a good pair of headphones clapped over your ears. Well, maybe when he got his time windows speakers with a bass. He called it a bass cube. It's a speaker that just plays bass because the time windows favored the treble, the high notes. Those were pretty good, but they had to be placed exactly right, and they sounded best when you sat in just the right spot. With headphones, it doesn't matter. You can lie down on the floor with a pillow under your head and listen and get good sound. Robert Olson. Okay. Waxy, are you trying to um bring the spooky into the chat? Hey, BSOD. I don't know what BSOD is. Oh, Oswald knows what happened to Phil in Vancouver. The, he had lost those memories, but they came back to him bit by bit after his oral surgery in February of 1973 in little bits and pieces. And as much as I was prepared to take him seriously, and I just found it incomprehensible that any agency of the government, US or otherwise, would take such interest in an obscure author of science fiction who was living in poverty and constantly ducking the landlord and stupid phone, struggling to make ends meet. I I could turn off the sounds on my phone, but sometimes I need those sounds to alert me to something. Um, Beacon got the blue screen of death. Wow, Beacon's all the way over in England. Maybe the authorities there don't want him to participate in these videos. Well, anyway, Phil had come under their radar by his own actions, but actions which should not have put him on the radar. He blamed Nixon, and Nixon was paranoid, but people were out to get Nixon. There's a gigantic fly buzzing around. There it left. Oh, there's another one. I think that's a bee. Oh, there he goes. Listen, bees don't want to sting you. Honey bees die when they sting something. Plus, I'm not particularly allergic to them. But I do plan to put up a barrier to keep the bugs out of my house. I just have to find my tools and hardware. Somebody moved while I was away with my broken hip, thinking that they were being helpful. Oh, so sorry, Deacon. Anyway, yeah, maybe there is a Valis satellite. Phil had many names for it: Firebride or Zebra, or if you're in England, Zebra. In America, we generally follow the rule that a vowel is long unless it's followed by a double consonant. So if we spelled it Zebbra, that would be zebra because it had a double B. Anyway, I just looked up concatenation, a string or series of events that are connected in some way. And that's what happened to Phil, a concatenation. He wanted to see UFOs, and perhaps his vision that inspired Palmer Eldritch, the great iron mask in the sky near the setting sun. Maybe that was a UFO. And maybe the Phallus satellite was a UFO. So, these days when the network news, whether they're broadcast or newspapers or magazines, and they have all this hullabaloo about strange things in the sky, My response is ho hum. Boring. We have known, or those of us who were alive and actually paying attention, have known since the 1950s that strange things fly around in our skies. It isn't new. And people who have been in the military, especially the Navy, by the way, but also the Air Force, can tell you that they see these things every day. There were Foo Fighters in World War II, early 1940s, and they didn't seem to belong to the enemy because they were harassing German planes as well as American planes. Oh dear, Waxy, I I fed Waxy's word nerd, so I'll spell it for you. Oh come on. The wireless mouse turns itself off if it's inactive, but at least I'm not tripping over the cord because it doesn't have one. Concatenation. We used to use that word in reference to cats. Hi, Paul from Newcastle. And Viken is here, and Oswald, and Waxy, and Jan Miller, and Magdalena Hake, I guess. Hake or Hike. And Viken, of course. I think I got everybody. If I didn't say hi to you, I'm not snubbing you, I'm just kind of scattered. Anyway, in the recorded video about UFOs over California, I went over the strange lights in the sky back in 1869, and then some fish fell from the sky and stuff like that. But now we are up to 1896, strange lights in the sky over San Francisco. The They didn't believe it because the sighting was by a woman. Sexist, male sexist pigs, you could say. People did not take women seriously. I mean, after all, they tended to be hysterical, which meant that their brains were fried by their woman parts. You can't pull that on me. I've been through menopause. I don't have a period. So I'm not on it. So anyway, but nobody believed this poor woman, but about a week of November, local hunter Mr. Brown told reporters that he saw a strange airship hovering at treetop level above nearby Bolinas Bridge. Again, however, people remained skeptical, but they took him a little more seriously than a woman. The first sighting to gain widespread attention occurred on November 17th, 1896, and I find that weird because the big Phil's house up north had many burglaries, but the big one happened on November 17th, 1971. Now that isn't a concatenation. It's just a coincidence. Or is it? You want to get all woo woo? He had visions of a book in dreams that seemed very, very important. He had to find that book. And when he finally found it, it was a biography of Warren G. Harding. Claimed that he read it and it was boring and put him to sleep. But I've obtained a copy of that book, and there are coincidences in The Shadow of Blooming Grove, which I'm. Oh, there's a hummingbird outside. He loves my roses. I don't dare put out any kind of bird feeder, it becomes a cat feeder. Even though my cats are well fed, this neighborhood has other cats. Okay, concatenation is a series of events that are connected meaningfully. Coincidence is just two things coincide, they happen together, but there is not necessarily any connection. But synchronicity is a coincidence that has meaning, meaningful coincidence. For example, I get a phone call and I think it's the guy who was supposed to call me because they have similar names, and he isn't. But we talk about the same topics that I was going to talk about with the guy who I thought he was. That's coincidence, but it's meaningful, so it's a synchronicity, even though it doesn't cause anything or lead to, well, it did lead to a little embarrassment when I figured out who he was. Oh well. But, that's meaningful, but not necessarily any cause effect relationship. In a concatenation, there is presumably a cause and effect relationship. So, Philip K. Dick, an obscure writer of genre fiction considered children's entertainment, science fiction, living in poverty, signs a petition promising not to pay income taxes until we pull out of Vietnam. And he does not pay his taxes. So he's one of many people who the IRS came around and took his car to pay for his taxes. They did that to many people. And then go forward 2 or 3 years, and Philip K. Dick has a phone call from John Lennon's hotel room in Canada. I keep forgetting. I think it was Montreal, but it could have been Ontario. Anyway, and he talks to, it's actually from his friend Paul Williams, a reporter who later um, interviews Phil and gets that interview article published in Rolling Stone magazine. Well, somewhere along the line, President Nixon's brand new organization, the Drug Enforcement Administration, is looking for Dr. Timothy Leary, who was actually on that phone call from John Lennon's hotel room and who has escaped from a minimum security prison where he was held on drug charges. And then we have various accusations that Phil was taking drugs all the time and his Brains were burned out from drugs. And what do you know? Phil's house gets ransacked in a paramilitary style raid. They even look through all his food and toss it on the kitchen floor. They take his bank records, his book manuscripts. They leave behind valuables, obvious valuables. Anyway, that's a concatenation. Those things are a series of events that lead to something. And then, now I have to get my dates right, but around the time of Paul Williams's article in Rolling Stone, Phil has a tooth extracted under general anesthesia, and when he comes home, he starts experiencing weird things. Things not necessarily missing, but moved around in our apartment. He hears voices that are inside his head. I mean, I don't hear the voices, but they're telling him to kill himself. And then he contacts Valis. He's mentally searching, he's meditating, and not on drugs. One time he smoked a joint, a marijuana cigarette, and I could have killed him because I don't want to get high. At that time, I had a small infant to take care of, so I doubly did not want to get high. But he smoked it in the bathroom, so when I walked in there to use the facilities, I got a huge whiff of marijuana smoke. Other than that, he did not take drugs while I was with him, unless the doctor prescribed them. But you could say that Valis is a UFO, but you could also say that it's nothing new. People have been seeing strange things in the sky for centuries. And in California since 1869, and that probably earlier, but you see, white European male historians pay no attention to Native Americans. Okay, the first sighting to gain widespread attention occurred on November 17th, 1896, when hundreds of citizens of Sacramento reported seeing a large flying airship move slowly over the city late at night. And it was reported in the Sacramento Bee. I'm skipping down. Several witnesses reported that they could hear voices coming from the strange craft. The next day, residents of Oak Park observed what may have been the same airship traveling overhead and leaving a trail of smoke. 5 days later, passengers on a streetcar in Oakland saw something that looked like a flying wingless cigar. My father saw one of those. It must have been 1958 or 9, flying over the San Fernando Valley in Southern California. He said it looked like an airplane without any wings. It even had windows on the side, but he couldn't see whether anyone was behind the windows. Blah, blah, blah. One of the passengers said, I thought at first it was a peculiarly shaped balloon with lights. I've never seen anything so bright. Someone seemed to be controlling the machine on a downward angle. I saw in just the right lighting at just the right angle, I saw something like that. I was in the city of Orange, looking westward, and I saw that and I said, that's got to be the Goodyear blimp going over Anaheim Stadium. I snapped a photo to show simply that I could send this to a magazine and say it's a UFO, but as it came closer and I got binoculars, sure enough, it was the Goodyear blimp. But in 1896, there was no Goodyear blimp that we know of. However, maybe they had blimps then, but nobody knew it. That goes back to Walter Bosley's book, Friends from Sonora. There was this flying club in Northern California on a ranch in Sonora. Maybe, maybe they had blimps. I don't know. Now, I forget where I left off in my recorded thing, but I want to get out of 1896. That was November. In December, on the second day of December, in the coastal town of Pacific Grove, north of San Francisco. So that would probably be Marin County. Two fishermen, Giuseppe Valenciano and Luigi Valdivia, were in their boat offshore when they observed a small airship land on the beach. Immediately, three occupants stepped out and physically carried into the forest. Still in 1896. This is mostly chronological, but not completely. The two fishermen attempted to approach, but were stopped by the occupants of the craft, who refused to let them pass. They did allow them to observe the craft, which was described as 20 yards long, cigar shaped, with wings that could be folded against the fuselage. The pilots refused to reveal their identity and waited for the fishermen to leave before taking off. Now, the book doesn't specify whether they took off by walking into the forest or whether they took off by flying, but I'll assume that they went deeper into the forest. The mysterious California airship flap lasted until December and remains unexplained to this day. Some researchers believe that the airship sightings. Oh, before I go on much further, please note they did not say that the pilots looked in any way strange. They were people, humans. We can assume that, or they would have said, oh, they were little gray men with big eyes. No, they were. Some researchers believe that the airship sightings may have been the result of early undercover experiments with human made dirigibles. In fact, several citizens at the time made similar, though unproven, claims. Interestingly, dirigibles were like blimps, but they had a solid structure. They were not just balloons. You know, like the Hindenburg, the famous dirigible that from Germany that caught fire and burned up in New Jersey. Interestingly, dirigibles were invented and flown for the first time only 1 year later, on November 3, 1897. Blah, blah, blah. by timber merchant David Schwartz of the he left out the S. Shame on him. It's a typo. My books are full of typos. Of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The first official dirigible flight in the United States also took place in California in 1904 when inventor Thomas Scott Baldwin tested his ship, the California Arrow, in August of that year. You see, the guy who gets the reporters out is the guy who gets the claim. But it's interesting, Austro-Hungarian Empire, because Joseph P. Farrell and Walter Bosley connect these weird sightings of flying machines to a German outfit called NIMSA, NYMCA. They think they know what it stands for, but I beg to differ. These letters, probably an acronym, they're right on that count, have been at least drawn, if not seen. They were drawn on artists' depictions of these airships from Sonora, California, by the way. And assuming that this is a German phenomenon and Austrians qualify as Germans, especially at a time when the Kaiser was first unifying Germany. Uh, Germany was just a collection of basically counties, duchies ruled by dukes. Anyway, Nimza, to my mind, that Y, both Joseph Farrell and Walter Bosley want to make it the letter J. And I disagree. Now, Joseph Farrell knows some German, which he probably learned from Wisconsin Germans. But I learned Schuldeutsch. I studied it in college. In German, the letter Y is called Upsilon, same as the Greek letter Upsilon. It's a U, not a J. And I think the N is either national or nationalist, and the UM is Übermenschen. Okay, I have to, I blanked on a name, so I have to turn to our good friend Google. Yes, there's a play by Burt Shaw in 1903 called Man and Superman, but what I'm looking for is the philosopher Nietzsche, born in 1844, died in 1900. The Nazis picked up this idea of Übermenschen, Superman, from Nietzsche. Yes, Waxy, that's what Walter Bosley came up with for NIMSA, but I say it's NUMZA. And the reason they didn't use the letter U is because although German The German language has the letter U. Übermenschen would be U with an umlaut. I don't have the capability to type it, and their printer probably didn't have the means to umlaut a U, so they chose the letter Y, which is Upsilon. And in German, that's the umlauted U with the two dots above the U. But that's a minor point. You really want Walter Bosley's book, so let me grab it and show you the cover. It is a second volume in the trilogy about the Empire of the Wheel. Empire of the Wheel, Volume 2, Friends from Sonora by Walter Bosley. It's available on Lulu. People sometimes complain they didn't get the title, and I know the feeling. Thank you, Waxy. You got it. I know there's a way to do an umlauted U, but I'm uh I'm not quite a Luddite, but I object to it not being right here on my keyboard. On a typewriter back in the day, you could just type the umlaut, the two dots, and then put the U under it, no problem. Computers make you go through all this rigmarole. Empire of the Wheel, Friends from Sonora by Walter Bosley. And it's available at lulu.com. I need both hands for this. LULU.com. You'll find all his books there. I'm really intrigued by his book, not X, Esoteric Napoleon. And I understand there will be a volume 2 of that because there was so much material, it would have made a gigantic volume. By the way, I'm working on a monstrosity of a book. LOL, Oswald. And I have to keep putting it down to engage in the struggles to keep the lights on. Right now, I have to recycle some coffee, so keep chatting and I'll be back in a flash. Hi, Mr. Sugar Patch. I'll be right back. Dum de dum de dum. Dum de dum. Dum de dum de dum. Okay, I'm sorry. Some people can sit and talk for 2 or 3 hours without a break, but I'm not one of them. It's a warm day, relatively, 65 degrees. Don't need two sweaters. Um, I suppose if I had either the money or the time to um, go through all the tutorials, I could play clips when I need a break. But I haven't figured that out yet, and I think it involves spending money, which I don't have. Well, Walter Bosley took a short break during COVID, and oh, he's talked about it publicly. So I'll just say that he had a brief battle with cancer, but it's over and he's well. He can't drink coffee anymore, but no caffeine. Other than that, he seems fine to me. But at the moment, Walter is very busy with another silent film. If you go to his YouTube channel, you'll find his film Hell's Bells. It's silent, black and white, and it's a good, entertaining, thought-provoking film. Now he's working on a new one, super low budget. I think he made the first one for $600, and that included buying a camera. Anyway, I don't know the title, I don't know the plot, I don't know anything, but he's working on it. So I think the book writing temporarily took a back door, but now he's back in action and finishing up volume two of the esoteric Napoleon. Napoleon went down to Egypt, kind of conquered it, sort of, and brought the Rosetta Stone back to France and did all kinds of stuff. He really was into mysticism. Uh, there's a car outside, but it isn't at my house. I don't understand why people with a pickup truck, which has only two doors, find the need to open those doors and slam them shut 6 times in 1 minute. And if you ever get the chance, speaking of Walter Bosley, go on one of his tours of the Inland Empire, primarily Riverside, to look at spooky places. You won't be, I don't think you'll be frightened, but you'll see, for example, a mine pit, an old gravel mine. It couldn't be anything but gravel. In fact, I don't think it was ever a mine at all. The granite is too fractured to be useful, and we kind of like our gravel to come from riverbeds where it gets rounded so it doesn't cut your feet when you walk on it. Anyway, it's an interesting place. And then up in San Bernardino County, see, Riverside used to be part of San Bernardino County. They split off because they didn't all like all the drunkenness and gambling in San Bernardino. Anyway, in San Bernardino, we have an interesting graveyard that spans more than 100 years, and we have a mall where there's it's relatively recent. It's a modern mall, but it has some really strange things. Oh, and back down in Riverside, there's a church with a statue way up on the roof. It's supposed to be Saint Catherine, but Walters Bosley says that's Hecate, and he has a good point. Hecate, uh, known primarily as the goddess of witches, but there's more to it than that. Anyway, where did I put my UFO book? It likes to hide from me. Here we finally get to the Native Americans. This author, Preston Dennett, does not ignore what the Native Americans say. Uh, my arm hurts from holding it. It's available from Schiffer Publishing in Pennsylvania. I suppose you could find it on Amazon. Um, so he's going to tell you what the Native Americans say about airships over California. What have I done? Cigarette does me no good if I can't light it. Well, let's see. Got a lighter down here. Whew, yeah. So, this interestingly is the first chapter of the book. The chapter title is The California Airship Mystery. Here we go. The many popular Native American legends of wise visitors from the sky could be the legacy of early California encounters. One of the first UFO Bigfoot accounts occurred in 1888 and comes from the journal of a cattleman who had wintered with a tribe of Native Americans in Northern California. So don't think, Geronimo and Crazy Horse and the U.S. cavalry cursed President Andrew Jackson for what he did to Native Americans, including the Cherokee, who were driven on the Trail of Tears all the way to the Badlands of Oklahoma. The Cherokee got revenge when they discovered gold and oil and other minerals. Anyway, in California, it wasn't like that. Most of the encounters were peaceful. Okay, so he stayed with Native Americans. I don't know what tribe, it doesn't say. One of the first UFO Bigfoot accounts, blah, blah, blah. During his stay, he saw a member of the tribe carrying a platter of raw meat into the forest. He followed the Indian to a nearby cave. Upon entering, he was amazed to see the Indian feeding the meat to a large, hairy, man-like creature. Now, of course, the naysayers will say, oh, it was a bear. Well, go ahead and say that. You don't have the evidence. You just think that if you have some other explanation, then what the eyewitness said couldn't be true. Okay, large, hairy, man-like creature. The creature was totally covered with thick hair, except for its palms, the palms of its hands. Uh, Coffee, tea, or water? I went with tea. The palms of its hands had no hair. That makes sense. Also, the creature had no neck, but was much larger than a man. The Indian tribe called him Crazy Bear and explained that he had come to the earth in a small moon, which carried two other similar creatures. Inside the small moon were several other entities who were human looking, only very short, and they wore shiny silver clothes. After disgorging the three creatures, the objects took off into space. So the two human looking people in the small moon dumped three Bigfoot creatures. Blah, 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 blah. And then they flew away. The Indians told the cattlemen that similar incidents had happened throughout the years, but only rarely. Airship reports came from rancher J.S. Jackson of Silsbee in 1905. Jackson was working with his livestock when a blinding flash of light enveloped the area. The cattle headed for cover and Jackson followed. Turning around, Jackson observed a 70-foot long cigar shaped craft with wings, one large searchlight, and small lights around the perimeter. Two of Jackson's neighbors also observed the craft before it departed. As in all cases of this kind, the identity of the pilots was never determined. Chapter 2 is early sight, but I'm not going to read you the whole book because that would cheat the author. You should buy it. It's a great book. And there are volumes for other states. It's a series. This one's on California. But I, I don't know whether there's one for every state in the union, but you can look them up. UFOs over and the name of your state and see if there's one for you. Cigarette went out. You see, and I'm not sure whether this is true everywhere, but here on the mountain, they are not allowed to put accelerants into the paper to keep your cigarette burning. So if you drop it on the ground, it will most likely go out and not set the forest on fire. There it is. I got an eye itchies again. It's all the pollen from the weeds. Oh, Richard Corral bought it. Thank you. Oh, and V ordered it and is reading Dr. Mary's Monkey. I've heard back in the days when Art Bell had a radio show, I've heard authors talking about Dr. Mary's Monkey and what happened to that poor woman. What have I done now? Oh, gotta wipe the tea off my nose. I know, too much information. Um, Waxy is still undecided as to whether He likes blank stares and groans better than laughter. Oh, sometimes you just got to say what the heckatay. Okay. Um, I guess what I need to do next, yes, in the context of reactions. Um, what I need to do next is finish reading The Shadow of Blooming Grove, The Life of Warren G. Harding. He was one of our presidents back in the Dark Ages 100 years ago. I think he came after Wilson and before Hoover. Because although Phil concluded that it was boring and not worth reading, I found details that are kind of coincidental, if not um, syn- what's the form of synchronicity? Synchronous. Examples of synchronicity. For one thing, Phil blamed President Nixon for his troubles, and because of Watergate and all that, and the war on drugs. Well, by the way, we all emitted a sigh of relief when Ronald Reagan and Nancy Reagan came up with just say no. So the war on drugs was not such a military thing. In fact, you could actually access treatment much more easily than now. Now it's something like $30,000 or $40,000 a month to get treatment for your addiction. Anyway, Blooming Grove. Warren G. Harding was associated with the Teapot Dome scandal. It had to do with investments, a lot of money. Harding was never directly connected to it, but the people around him were his advisors, his cabinet secretaries, you know. And the conclusion of historians was that Harding was innocent, but he surrounded himself with crooks. And that could be said about Nixon, who did not order the Watergate break in, but did try to cover it up. And maybe it wasn't so much Nixon as the people around him, people he put into power as advisors and cabinet secretaries. But Nixon always claimed that history would, lost the word, but it basically absolve him of guilt, justify him. Mm. So much chocolate, so little time. Oh, the grass pollens are horrible, and I have to go out and pull the weeds, so of course it's best for me to wear the mask while pulling weeds, even though, well, I guess California is behind the times. On June 15th, you can stop wearing the mask if you're fully vaccinated. Now, I don't understand that. I got one Pfizer shot and I didn't dare take the second one because I had severe side effects. But with one shot, you're 83% covered. I could go get the Johnson and Johnson shot. It's just one shot, but it only gives you 66% immunity. And yet, because I didn't take the second Pfizer shot, I'm supposedly at risk. Yeah, Phil had several visions of this very important book. I'll get my copy. Hi, sweetie. I'm not gonna do anything to you. I'm just getting my book. Oh, poor skittish kitty cat. Ah, there, here it is. Ah, sweetie, are you a good girl? I got treats. Where's my good girl? Come on. It's a good girl. Usually that gets her in. Are you coming, sweetie? I got her your treats. There she is. That's a good girl. Good girl. The power of the tummy works better for dogs. Okay, this is what he saw in his dream. I spent extra to get a copy that looked like what he described. Front and back have that diamond. The Shadow of Blooming Grove. Warren G. Harding in His Times by Francis Russell. It's a collector's edition. All right. Well, it has things in it. I have a list somewhere. Let me see. Where is it? And at the end of my preview edition of the X in Exegesis, you will find a list. So I'll go down to that list. I didn't explain it. I just kind of left it in there. Yeah, I think it's related to Bohemian Grove, the infamous camp in Northern California where um, the rich and powerful gather. Well, it doesn't seem to be in this version. How strange. Is that the end of the document? Yes. What have I done? Did I take it out? Doesn't seem to be here, so I gotta find the other one. All right, control end. Well, I don't see it, so I'm going to have to revert to the old-fashioned pencil notes. The computer seems to have eaten my notes. Lord. Come on, here we go. On page 23, the of Blooming Grove has a person named Fogelsong, which is very, I forget what they call it. It's sort of a funeral home where they keep the frozen bodies. Page 51 talks about Crestline, Ohio, which I find interesting because I live in Crestline, California. And there's a footnote on page 64 about March 2, 1885. So let's see, let's find page 64. I know I have more notes. Okay, footnote number 11. So where's the, I almost need a magnifying glass. Where is the footnote? What does it reference? Well, it's the second day of March. Something happened. And I didn't take better notes. But it has to do with the newspaper that Warren G. Harding and a friend were running. One of their early businesses. Um, I had a lot more notes than what I wrote down in pencil. So, anyway, I will be tracking down more. All right. This is driving me crazy. Let me see if I can. Oh, come on. I hate it when it does that. Sorry for the silence. Let me see. Open, open, open. This isn't Mervin's. Um, just isn't in here. I'm going. I think my computer lost the file. Ah, Bohemian Grove. V lived near Bohemian Grove. Yeah, Bohemian Grove did not allow women as members, but they certainly did hire many women. Makes you wonder what they hired them for. But I guess they had, people to cook and food and clean things up and so forth. But one never knows. They were there to party, to abandon all care and have fun. And some very interesting people have visited Bohemia. If you search online, you can find lists of who went there. It's interesting. And of course, most famously, before he got canceled, Alex Jones sneaked in and surreptitiously took video of their ceremony of the cremation of care. He was very far away from the stage, and it isn't very good video, but it is kind of frightening. If I have a lot of cares that I want to forget for a while, I have a bubble bath and I eat chocolate covered strawberries. I don't light a fire under a gigantic concrete statue of an owl. But I do find it interesting that Phil intended to write a book called The Owl in Daylight, and he had these visions of a book that's probably connected to Bohemian Grove, The Shadow of Blooming Grove. Phil didn't know anything about Bohemian Grove. Most people didn't. I certainly didn't in 1981 and 2. But there's this giant owl statue at Bohemian Grove. And they seem to be worshiping it. I've had some strange owl experiences. When I bought my first house up here in the mountains, the one I lost in foreclosure in the crash, um, the first morning, one of the first mornings anyway, I woke up, went outside on the front porch, and there lying on the ground in my front yard was just one wing from an owl, a large owl. Of course, at the moment, I can't think of the what that kind of owl is called, but it's one of the big ones. The wing was at least a foot long, but just the wing. Now I know that that wasn't done by cats. That owl was big enough to eat a cat. Oh yeah, Whitley Strieber's Communion. Uh, I found that book fascinating. Anyway, um, before that, there was a time when I was driving in the middle of the night going from Anaheim, near Disneyland, all the way up to Southern Oregon to see Granny. And I was on the 99 going through the middle of nowhere. And suddenly there's this big owl in my windshield going, ah! And I'm going, ah! my foot off the gas, and the owl managed to go up and over my car and not get splatted on my windshield. Well, it's a good thing I slowed down. I had been going way too fast. Even though it was a straight, flat road, stuff can happen, especially in the middle of the night. Before anybody had cell phones, you had to find a call box. I have not seen Mark Clelland's work on owls, Oswald. Oh, Mike Clelland. Sorry, haven't seen it. No, I'm trying to type. Haven't seen it. I have to hold my hands funny when I type, or else I'll brush against the mouse pad and the computer will do something weird. I believe in a real mouse. It does what I want. The mouse pad, I've never gotten the hang of it. I put my finger on it to move the mouse and it thinks I clicked on something and closes the window or opens a new tab. I hate it. Trackballer. I remember trackball, not mice. Problem was so much maintenance. That rubber ball would shrink and it would pick up dirt. My water's empty. I'll be right back. Dum de dum, dum de dum de dum. Yes, I'm a fan of Dragnet, the old one with Jack Webb and, oh, I knew his name a second ago, his sidekick. Loved the sidekick. Get his name. This isn't fair. I wasn't that thrilled with Jack Webb, but I liked the other guy. Harry Morgan. I really like Harry Morgan. He was in lots of stuff. He was good. Well, Oswald, I will have to look at for Mike Clelland's work on owls. Sounds amazing. When I had my trackball, I'd have to take the mouse apart and clean the ball, and um, was this oil you could get to stop it from falling apart and to make it quit shrinking. And then you had to wipe it with a paper towel and wait for it to dry. And ah, hi, Wax Web. Gonna buy another book, eh? Well, anyway, I'm gonna have to track down all the little things in the shadow of Blooming Grove that just have some synchronicity with not only Bohemian Grove, although I don't think Harding ever went there, but also with Phil's list. It must be in there and it's driving me crazy. No, I don't want quick access. I want the actual desktop. I hate what I hate what um computers do to me. Let's see if it's in this file. Well, now my note on Bohemian Grove says there's something on page 15 of the published exegesis and something on page 16 about an owl. All right, but I'm not seeing my notes about Bohemian Grove, so I'm puzzled. All right, let's see. Exegesis, page, gigantic book, page 15 and page 16. I took the paper dust jacket off. Uh, and the people who thought they were being helpful put it somewhere. So I can't put it back on because I don't know where they put it. There's something about a picnic with friends. Oh, 15 and 16. I see. This is where Phil talks about his visions of that important book. Now, of course, I'll be right back. Don't go. Dum de dum, dum de dum de dum. I'm coming. Ooh, crackers. Can't eat those now. It'll gross you out. Okay. Phil wrote to Claudia Bush on July 5, 1974. For 3 months, virtually every night, I've had these dreams involving written material. And within the last few days, it became obvious that oh God, specific book was indicated. That the ultimate purpose of all these dreams was to call my attention to an actual book somewhere in the real world. In a dream a month ago, I managed to see part of the title. It ended in the word growth. However, there was a long word similar to budding before grove. So I knew by the first part of the day yesterday that I was looking for a large blue hardback book very large and long, according to some dreams, endlessly long, in fact, with the final word of the title being grove and a word before it like budding. So I wrote a pencil note in here, Bohemian Grove. Phil knew nothing about Bohemian Grove. Oh, Cardinal Sin, we need to connect. How about you just email me? Kitty's Cats 777 at gmail.com. That's also my PayPal. Hint, hint. Need to keep the lights on so I can work on this. Anyway, that's my email. Blah, blah, blah. And skipping down a ways, anyhow, today I looked all day around the house since Tessa has been sick with a sunburn. I don't remember that, but okay. And all at once I found the book. The 3 month search is at last over. A blue hardcover, a blue hardback, very thick, very long, word grove in the title, and something like budding, blooming. As soon as I took down the volume, I knew it to be the right one. I had seen it again and again with ever increasing clarity until it could not be mistaken. The book is called The Shadow of Blooming Grove, hardback and blue, running just under 700 huge long pages of tiny type. It was published in 1968. It is the dullest book in the world. I tried to read it when the Book Find Club sent it to me, but couldn't. It is a biography of Warren G. Harding. P.S. This is on the level, and it goes to show you that you should never take your dreams too seriously, or else it shows that the unconscious or the universe or God or whatever you can, a 3 month gag. And in parentheses, if you want to read the book, I'll mail it to you. Postage should be enormous. You got 3 years ahead in which you have nothing planned? Question mark. I've got all kinds of notes in here because, well, because. What's that? And what's this? Just a few notes here, but they aren't relevant at this time. Okay, Cardinal Sin. Um, I guess Facebook messages. What happens is I have so many Facebook friends who message me that yours keeps getting knocked way down to the bottom. I think I have, the desire to talk more about this work in progress. And of course, the big guys want you to have finished writing it and get it published before they want to talk to you. It's killing me. It's a monumental work with lots of research, reading. My eyes hurt, my brain hurts. And now I have to track down the rest of my notes about Bohemian Grove. And The Shadow of Blooming, Gil at sunflower.com. Okay. Oh yeah, you don't have a wrench, so you can't um give me a link. Gil at sunflower.com. I don't see why don't I have any wrenches? I've given wrenches to people. Oh well, Waxy's too comical. Beacon's in England, so he doesn't understand Americans. Oswald has a wrench. Okay, I have a wrench in the room. See, guys with a wrench by their name, they can uh, they can remove any um, offensive comments. Now, I don't care if you talk about Trump, Biden, Obama, Reagan, Bush, and Bush daddy, Bush son, Clinton, but YouTube might. I do not want cussing, specifically profanity. I don't care if you say, oh my God, but I do care if you use sexual profanity. Now, some people are really sensitive about the word shit and even about the word crap, which I use instead of shit. All right. Cardinal Sin sent me an email. Let's see if I got it. I'm using up my mobile. This has surprised me because I'm live on YouTube, so it's low. Let me see. Just make sure it isn't in the spam folder. It's slow. And it might have put you in social or promotions. Well, nothing in spam, so what the hiss? It just hasn't come yet. So let me see if I can add you to contacts. Every time I learn how to use a computer thingy, an app, a program, or whatever, they change everything. Um, one of my contacts is myself. Create label, export, print, other trash. Oh, create contract. Just one, please. Um, okay, now I gotta go over here. Cardinal Sin. Email. Gil at. You just make sure I got that right. GIL at sunflower.com. Never heard of Sunflower. Okay, you're saved. Are you saved? Do you hate people who walk up to you and say, are you saved? Well, it still hasn't arrived, but as I said, that doesn't surprise me. I think if you're who I remember, I actually subscribe to your YouTube channel, but I never get the notifications. Anyway, we got to get together. You're in Kansas. Oh, well, then sunflowers make sense. That's your state flower. Yeah, the Tuffy 777 still works, but I get so much spam in that one that it's often hard to find things. But yeah, they both work. Both emails work, Kitty's Cats and Tuffy. Tuffy was the best cat ever. All right, close things up. I once had a part time job doing some bookkeeping for a company that investigated car crashes. And my supervisor, the head bookkeeper, took me to lunch and wanted me to tell her all about how I got saved. Well, my life at work wasn't much fun after that. uh, sorry you missed a bit, V, but mostly it was me either searching for something I couldn't find or um, recycling coffee. I'm going to give one more shot at the. Well, that isn't what I wanted. Humph. Never mind. I'll try this. Nope. No joy. Oh well, I'll find those notes. Oh, Ancient of Days radio show that I have a number of reasons for not using Blog Talk anymore. I'd be all set to start my show, and Blog Talk would be down, and their um, customer service was also not available. Oh, yeah, I talked about owls. Owls are amazing creatures. They fly silently, they can see in the dark. There actually are owls that can fly in the day. Um, so the old southern expression, blind as an owl in daylight, is not always true. Yes, Cardinalson, your email went through to Gmail, but that doesn't mean Gmail popped it into my box. Here we go, now it's there. Got it. And you're in my list of contacts now. Masters of the genre. Yeah, I am okay. I'm signed up. I'm subscribed to Into the Fringe, but not your other channel. And now and then I do get a notice that there's something on Into the Fringe, but mostly I don't get the notifications. It'll pop up on the screen where it shows a preview of each video, but it doesn't come up on the little bell where it's supposed to. Yeah, we will stay in touch, so I'll have to look. Yeah, YouTube is supposed to tell me when you are going to have a live show in 30 minutes, and it's supposed to tell me when you've uploaded something. It doesn't. When you subscribe to a channel, you click on the bell and then choose all notifications, and it's supposed to. Then, when you're watching YouTube or you're just on the home page, up on the top right, there's a bell. You click on that to see your notifications, and you're never on it. It never tells me. But sometimes if you've uploaded something, it'll show me the little box with the preview and a link to watch the video. Ah, well, anyway, we've been on for an hour and 40. Christopher O'Brien, Thursday, 7 to 9 Central, 5 to 7 Pacific. Okay. Ah, I should probably get some breakfast. Man does not live on coffee alone, although I need my coffee. Oh, you wrote Eastern and I didn't even see that. Yeah, it's Pacific. I find um, time zones confusing. For example, twice now I've flown to Colorado. Time flying since Reagan fired the air traffic controllers, except one time when I had to go to Seattle. I had no choice, but I came home by rail and bus. Anyway, it says you leave at this time and you arrive at that time. But Colorado's in a different time zone from California. So my phone, which I use to tell the time, switches to Colorado time. And I'm going, well, why aren't we there yet? It's supposed to be like 2 hours, I think, something like that. Oh, well, it hasn't been 2 hours. The clock just changed because it's a later time zone. I have some old clunky webcams. What I hope to do is continue using the computer, the built-in camera on the laptop, and see if this microphone will help. Because my old clunky webcams were old when they were given to me 2 years ago. But actually, the camera on the laptop is pretty good. You want to send me a webcam? That'd be cool. Let me see. Uh, I'm like, not a Luddite, but computer challenge. I had to remember how to do thumbs up. Yeah. As it is, when I'm watching things, I use markers. Um, you'll just have to take my word for it that there are two of these. The cables kind of won't let me move them very much. They're cheap little, like 10, somewhere between $10 and $20 speakers. They make a world of difference in the sound that I hear on the laptop. Well, I'm on the fastest internet connection Verizon will give me, unless I buy all new 5G devices, which is it isn't worth the expense. So I'm on the 4G right now. And as you can see, since I haven't mentioned things that YouTube and Verizon don't like, they haven't screwed up the connection. They haven't told me your connection is unstable in nearly 2 hours. Let's see, an hour and 46. The thing is, I get only 15 gigs on the computer, on the little modem thingy that they call a jetpack. But I get another 15 from my phone and another 15 from my tablet. But 15 gigs lasts me between 2 and 3 days. There are at least 30 days in month. Oh, people think 5G is going to fry your brains. Well, trust me, if 4G didn't fry your brains, 5G won't either. We are surrounded by electromagnetic radiation. It's everywhere. The power lines, the telephone lines, the cell towers, the repeaters that send your messages to trucks and connect law enforcement cars to their dispatchers. It's everywhere. Germany wants to put a 5G network on the moon. Who are we going to talk to? To whom are we going to talk? Who lives on the moon? Oh, and these disclosure things, these videos, that not only the tic tac, but some other videos they've better quality. Okay, we've known. I've known all my life there are strange things in the sky and we don't know what they are. And showing a little video of something and we still don't know what it is, that is not disclosure. That's just um, the new opium for the masses. It used to be religion. Now it's UFOs, the new religion. Worship the spaceman. That's what bothers me about Trump. Trumpism has become a cult of personality. I had to approve a comment because it mentioned YouTube channel. Thanks, Kurt Milson. Thanks, Gil. Uh, I have to get off soon too. I was suspicious of Trump, but Biden is horrible. I don't think Biden's in charge. I really don't. He's well, think of Robert Heinlein's The Puppet Masters. I'm going to get going. I'm less than 2 minutes short of 2 hours. Harding was kind of handsome. Okay. Uh, he was a farmer from Ohio, or as they say in Ohio, Ohio. Um, anyway, it has been a fascinating ride. And the lilacs don't last that long, Oswald. and we had a frost that burned the flowers. Lilac blooms last at the most 2 weeks, but mine usually wilt after 1 week. They're Oh, thank you, Jan. And let's see, I gotta type thank you all for listening. Evil keyboard. Lilacs? You're probably pronouncing them better than we are, Oswald. I believe it's a French word, so it would be lilac. Anyway, I really should get some breakfast into my tummy. It's complaining. So I will catch you guys later, next Tuesday, if not sooner. Bye.